MEP 2040, some commitment that organizations, design firms can drive the performance of the buildings that they design towards zero by a certain date. So MEP 2040 is about equipment and systems and material related to the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, focusing on not only the operational side, but also the embodied carbon side of those systems. The commitment is working towards zero, higher levels of efficiency, more awareness, and driving the industry to give us the materials that we need to meet this commitment.
It's been interesting because for a long time in this push, MEP has been kind of exempt. MEP 2040 is like, you know what? That's not really appropriate. There are a lot of things that we can do as MEP specifiers towards the actual embodied energy, embodied carbon of our products. Right now, MEP 2040 as a driving force is getting the information that we want from the people who are making our stuff. We're not making conduit, we're not making ductwork, right? We need the ability to actually specify ductwork that meets a particular level.
We are doing a few things. We're looking at creating a company plan, which is what rule sets are we going to create, what changes do we need to make to our standard operating procedures, including basis of design narratives, including specs, drawing notes, anything that could help drive us towards zero emissions for operations and for embodied carbon on MEP. It asks us to specify MEP systems, MEP equipment, so really anything related to mechanical, electrical, plumbing that have environmental product declarations, EPDs. There's very few products in the MEP world that have EPDs. Our goal is to change that. So by asking manufacturers, do you have an EPD for this entire chiller? And the answer is a lot of times no. But the fact that we're asking the question and more MEP firms are signing and asking these questions, we're driving the manufacturing. Hopefully, that's the idea. We're seeing more and more alignment between this commitment from the design side to the certifications. For instance, there are new refrigerant requirements as part of these updated versions for those certifications that now, if your design team is a signatory of MEP 2040, you immediately satisfy these certain requirements with respect to embodied carbon and refrigerants as part of those certifications. The next example is with LEED. And one of the new prerequisites is going to be a limit on refrigerants. And it's a prerequisite, which is amazing. The 700 GWP cap on refrigerants. Now, that's not zero, but it's better than having no limit, which was what we've experienced up until today. So we're really happy to see alignment with certifications and the worlds of refrigerants and MEP systems. The embodied carbon aspect of MEP systems have thought to be, something you can sweep under the rug, that the majority of the embodied carbon of a building is contained within the steel and the concrete and the glass and the carpeting and the furniture. And for the most part, that's true. But the more information we're pulling in, the more studies that are done, we're seeing that percentage is not actually sweepable anymore. The percentage that MEP makes of the carbon life cycle of a building is 15%, 20%, maybe more. And that's just the embodied alone. Then you think about the refrigerants and the leakage year by year and how that can expand. And so by conducting the life cycle analysis on the total life cycle carbon, by limiting our leakage, by looking at alternative refrigerants, we can actually make a substantial difference. The biggest challenge is availability. There are very few heat pumps and chillers that operate at the ideal refrigerant, right? The ideal refrigerant is one that does not require you to increase the size and the capacity of the unit to deliver the same output of heating or cooling. One that doesn't reduce the efficiency of the equipment and that allows us to drive towards 0 or 1 GWP. There's not many pieces of equipment out there that satisfies that. So availability is the biggest aspect.
At the end of the day, we're specifiers. We need to communicate with the manufacturers what we need. And that's what all of MEP 2040 is fundamentally around, giving us some impetus to put pressure on those who actually can invent new refrigerants.
The MEP is going to be the influencer. That's interesting.
That's right. For the first time, we get to drive the market.
The MEP is going to be the
For a long time, the architect has been on the hook. And the MEP engineers have gotten to slide. It reminds me of back in the day where all healthcare projects in California were code exempt, energy code exempt. So they didn't make choices that were beneficial to the energy. They all deemed themselves as being above the law. And when they were added to the energy code, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, how dare you? We save lives. We shouldn't have to worry about energy. Fast forward 20 years, it's of course no big deal, whatever. And to some degree, I feel like this is how we're being affected. We have for a long time been exempt. Our systems are so complex or too difficult to quantify. We just have been kind of above the law. And now we are showing that we need to meet the similar types of levels of performance that the architects have had on their table for a while. So it's really appropriate.